Hello my friends, welcome to another video. This time around I wanted to share with you some amazing philosophies of Mr. Victor Wooten, an outstanding bass player and musician, but most of all an incredible human being with a particular way of saying things, very deep as music, for instance. And I wanted to share with you these interesting things that I saw online. I recently saw an interview of him at NAM, and it got me very inspired, and some things that he said really blew my head, blew my mind, and I wanted to share with you this incredible philosophies of him. He says, music is a language. Both music and verbal languages serve the same purpose. They are both forms of expression. They can be used as a way to communicate with others. They can be read, they can be written, and they can make you laugh or cry, think or question, and can speak to one or many. And both can definitely make you move. Awesome. And yeah, he's right. I mean, music is just another language, like literally. It's like Spanish or French or English or Italian. I mean, music is another form of communication that we humans have, and it's a beautiful language. Definitely, that's right. So another one, in some instances, music works better than the spoken word because it doesn't have to be understood to be effective. And yes, they're very true. You listen to music and you can't know for sure what the musician is trying to say, but you will understood it perfectly. Let's continue with this one that says, many of us treat music as something that can only be learned by following a strict regimen under the tutelage of a skilled teacher, and even though this approach is successful, it takes a long time. Too long. And yes, he grew up as a musician since he was a baby, since he was a little kid. For Victor, music was very natural in his house. His relatives, his parents played instruments, so he grew up in this environment of music. For him, music became a part of his being. I think that's why he sees music this way, because most of us have to go to classes, have to go to a teacher in order for us to learn an instrument. And for Victor, this was not the case. He grew up in a house full of musicians, so he had it natural. Think about the first language you learned as a child, and more importantly, think about how you learned it. You were a baby when you started speaking, and even though you spoke the language incorrectly, you were allowed to make mistakes, and the more mistakes you made, the more your parents smiled. Learning to speak was not something you were sent somewhere to do only a few times a week. The majority of the people you spoke to were not beginners. They were already proficient speakers. Imagine your parents forcing you to only speak to other babies until you were good enough to speak to them. You'll probably be an adult before you can carry on a proper conversation. As a baby, you were allowed to jam with professionals. You were allowed to improvise with adults. If we approach music in the same natural way we approach our first language, we will learn to speak in the same short time it took to speak our first language. And yes, if we look at this, we learn our first language, our native language, by trying to communicate with adults. So they were proficients on the language. We were not proficients, we were beginners, so to speak. So having these professionals in the language near us were allowing us to better understand and express ourselves better. And I think music is that way, like Victor said. He shares with us some keys to follow in learning or teaching music. Number one, in the beginning, embrace mistakes instead of correcting them. Like a child playing air guitar, there are no wrong notes. Wow, this is amazing. Allow yourself or young musicians to play and perform with accomplished musicians on a daily basis. Encourage young musicians to play more than they practice. The more they play, the more they will practice on their own. and it will be more fun, right? Sometimes practice gets a little boring, and when you're playing, just playing, whatever you feel, it gets more fun. And if it's more fun, you will move on, I think, faster. Remember that a language works best when we have something interesting to say. Many teachers never find out what their students have to say. We only tell them what they are supposed to say. A child speaks a language for years before they even learn the alphabet. Too many rules at the onset will actually slow them down. The approach to music should be the same. After all, music is a language too. Music comes from the musician, not the instrument. The video I saw, he was asked to improvise something over a guitar part. So he says, when I improvise, even before I start to improvise, I'm sure I will not be thinking about music theory. He sees improvisation like question and answer. He says he will see what the questions means to him, and he will answer with the feeling, all right? That's an interesting to approach improvisation. He says theory only comes in when there is a problem, if I need it. And that's huge, man. I mean, how many of us spend a lot of time like only focusing on theory, music theory all the time, and we forgot the feeling, we forgot the emotion, we forgot what music makes us feel. And when we feel something and we give it back, that's more interesting instead of seeing everything with music theory, you know? Theory is a tool, and like riding a car, the tools are in the trunk. They are not in the passenger seat. I hope I never need the tools, but they are there in case I need it. Okay, that's amazing. People don't want to hear my music theory. People want to hear my passion, my emotion, and my feel. They don't care about how much theory I know. That's incredible, man. At the end of the day, the average listener, they don't care about what gear you use or how much theory you know. They only care about the emotion that you will put in the music. How will you make them feel? That's all they care about. We learn theory in order to be right, he says. But the coolest parts that get your attention is the wrongness. Wrongness grabs your emotions. So the coolest notes are the wrong ones. When you are playing, think about speaking more than you think about music theory. Nobody hires me to play the right key. They hire me to make you groove, to make you move. Yes, for sure. And another thing regarding improvisation, he says, I don't know the key, I don't know the perfect pitch, but I don't care, because you're not gonna dance to the key. You are gonna dance to the groove. Yes, Victor, as a bass player, he's a rhythm section of a band. He says that the job is not just to play with the musicians. His job as a rhythm player is to make the other musicians sound better. Okay, how about that? Interesting and very, very awesome way of thinking of seeing music. Very inspiring, I might add. I wanted to share with you these awesome philosophies that he has. So thank you very much for watching, my friends. Leave a comment down below to see what you think about these philosophies. Some of them are really, really mind-blowing to me, and I want to know what you think about it. So see you on the next video. I'll leave all the applicable links on the description to my social media. So yeah, see you on the next one, okay? Take care.